Good afternoon, Year 3. How are we? So, it is Friday, and that means, well, you all know what that means. It means that it is time to choose our new class, but, well, it's time for me to reveal which one it was. Thank you to all of those children that voted, and it means that my texts worked because I had people voting all the way up to yesterday, so that's really, really good. So here are the two contenders, the top two contenders. We had Me and Mr. P by Maria Farah and Stitchhead by Guy Bass, and it was really, really close to these two. I think there was one vote in it, and I can tell you that the one that won was Stitchhead by Guy Bass. Now, even if you didn't vote for this book, I would really, really appreciate it if you did listen to me read this book, because it's really important for all of us to read books that we wouldn't necessarily have picked ourselves, because it means we're reading more widely, and you never know. You could really, really enjoy it. I necessarily might not have picked this book up myself, but it has come recommended. I can tell you who it's come recommended from now. It's come recommended from Mr. Carr. And he told me that it was really good for Year 3, so hopefully we'll really, really enjoy it. So I'd appreciate it if you stuck around and listened to what's going to happen in this story. So I'll just read you the blurb again. In Castle Grotesque, something big is about to happen to someone small. Join a mad professor's forgotten creation as he steps out of the shadows into an adventure of an almost lifetime. So let's see what's going to happen. There are lots of pictures in here, so that's one good thing. Like so. A foreword warning in the form of a poem writ a long time ago by someone more grotty old than your nan. Tommy Trump upon a hill trumped a smell that made him ill, did his best to find a loo within the wall of Grotesque. In went Tommy through the gate, and there he met his awful fate. So if you're feeling a trumper coming, run back home to Grubber Nubbin. And this is Grubber's Nubbin. It says, welcome to Grubber Nubbin. And then it says yesteryear on it. So the prologue. I'll probably read the prologue. Let's just see. I think I'll just read the prologue and maybe chapter 1. We'll see. I think maybe prologue and chapter 1. Prologue. A better class of freaks, monsters, creatures, and mad things. It was the night that everything changed. The circus had come to Grubber Nubbins, or rather, Fulbert Freak Finders, travelling carnival of unnatural wonders. A terrifying voyage for the mind and spirit to a world of such unfathomable oddities as has ever been seen. Had come to Great Nubbins. Roll up, and draw near, you brave souls of chugging nubbins. Witness the most mind-blowing, stomach-churning, trouser-messing show on earth. Fresh from our sell-out world tour, cried the fat Fulbert Freak Finder atop his colourfully dubed horse-drawn carriage. He was handing out posters for his show to anyone who passed by. 3 more curtain-covered carriages followed behind, trundle clopping along the lamp-lit cobbles of the main street. Dare you gaze upon the impossible creatures lurking behind these drapes? You'll need all your nerves to behold these monsters. You'll scream, you'll gasp, you'll wet your undergarments. Behold and be horrified. As a crowd gathered round the carriages, Freak Finder leapt down onto the cobblestone. He was distractingly short and round, with legs so stick-thin they looked as if they may buckle under his weight. He wore a battered top hat and tailcoat, which, a long time ago, might have been rather splendid. He grinned as he pulled back the curtain on the first carriage. The carriage was a cage, and inside, presenting Dr. Contortion, the human knot, watch in disbelief as he bends his body in impossible ways, cried Freak Finder, pointing at a tall, stiff man trying desperately to get his foot behind his head. "Stupid leg! Bend!" mumbled Contortion to his leg. "Everyone is looking." "Moving along," grunted Freakfinder, shaking his head. "Brace your britches for Madame Moustache, the woman with the well-combed face." Freakfinder pulled back the second curtain. Inside was a burly old woman with a horse's tail glued to her chin. "It pays the bills," said Madame Moustache, "and prepare to have your world turned upside down by the Topsy-Turvy Twins." In the third cage were two tiny, wizened men struggling to do handstands. "Here come the cramps," said the men in unison, and immediately toppled over. "Oh, cruel, cruel nature! Come closer if your constitution can stand it, but try not to be sick on my shoes. Just 6p a stare," cried Freakfinder. No one came closer, nor was there any screaming or gasping. In fact, no one so much as batted an eyelid. After a moment, the crowd carried on their business, except for one untidy, wide-eyed girl who started to giggle. "Your freaks aren't scary," she chuckled. "Why, they ain't even freaks." "Oh, you like to laugh at a fellow down on his luck, do you? Go on, clear off, you little snot, before I set the twins on you," snapped Freakfinder. Oh, blow it all to smithereens. What's the point? It's the same in every town. Not so much as a trickle of nervous wee from anyone. What does it take to put a peculiar fear into folks these days? I'll tell you what, I need to find me a better class of freaks. It's kind of reminded me of that Greatest Showman vibes so far. "Sorry, boss," said Dr. Contortion, now trying to get his foot to touch his chin. "We're doing our best." "Your best has yet to be anything but a disappointment, Maurice," grumbled Freakfinder. "The fact is, people just aren't so easy to scare anymore. Well, I'm not giving up. I've been in the horror show business my whole life, and I'm not about to chuck it all in." "You were never going to scare us anyway," said the girl, who hadn't cleared off in the slightest. "This is Grubber Nubbins. Folk round here have got plenty to be scared about already." "Is that right? And what, pray tell, are they so afraid of?" asked Freakfinder. Suddenly, a hideous, blood-freezing, gut-curdling "Go!" filled the air. The townsfolk shrieked and scattered in all directions, running into their house and bolting the door. "That," said the girl, pointing up to the darkness. There was a clap of thunder, and a streak of lightning lit up the night sky. In the distance was a huge, dark castle atop a hill. Freakfinder felt a shiver run down his toes and back up again as another heart-stopping roar came from the castle. "Lugs and mumbles! What is that?" asked Freakfinder. "Monsters," whispered the girl, her dark eyes glistening like beads in moonlight. "Monsters? What monsters? What are you blithering about?" asked Freakfinder. "Folks say the castle's full of them. We hear roaring and screaming, and some reckon they've seen things atop the castle walls." "Not human things," replied the girl. "The whole town's petrified, but not me. I ain't scared of nothing." "Arabella, come inside this instant!" screamed an old lady, darting out of a nearby house and grabbing the girl. "Wait, little girl, what is that place? Who lives there?" cried Freakfinder. "That's Castle Grotesque, home of the mad Professor Erasmus," shouted the girl as she was dragged inside. "He makes monsters, creatures, and mad things." "Does he now?" muttered Freakfinder, and an evil grin spread across his face like a disease. Okay, the first chapter. Life in Grotesque Castle, or something like it. Lucy, good and true, went to Castle Grotesque, though she thought she'd seen what lurked inside, but for her troubles Lucy died. Before she perished, she did say, "Monsters, creatures, go away." Around 18 minutes before Fulbert's Freak Finder's travelling castle of unnatural wonders trundled into Grubber's Nubbin, Mad Professor Erasmus, I think I'm going to say, was in his laboratory, toiling on his latest experiment. According to the popular opinion, Mad Professor Erasmus was the maddest mad professor of all. He spent all day and night in his laboratory, breathing life, or something like it, into any number of brain-melting strange creatures. Steam-powered skulls, dog-faced cats, headless horses, flesh-eating chairs, frog children, that sort of thing. Life! You should be my greatest creation ever, and I really mean it this time. The professor always thought that his newest creation was bound to be his greatest ever. That is, until the next one came along. For no sooner had he brought his almost life to a new creature that he immediately lost interest and moved on to his next peculiar project. More power! Life, I say, he cried, pulling levers and administering potions. High up in the rafters, hidden in the shadows, a tiny figure watched as the professor created almost life for the umpteenth time. His name was Stitchhead. Stitchhead was the professor's very first creation. He was a strange-looking something or other, more or less human-shaped, but no bigger than a medium-sized monkey, and made up of bits, pieces, and spare parts that the professor had managed to find. His bald, round head was a patchwork of stitches, and his eyes were a different colour. While the left was a small black bead, the right was large, bright, and ice blue. This eye was a sight to behold. It almost seemed to glow in the castle's dimly lit corners. Yes, yes! Now we're cooking! More power! More! Now a little less! Now more! Cried the professor again. Over the years, Stitchhead had witnessed the birth of dozens of the professor's creations, and with each one he was reminded how once he was the most important creation in the professor's life, that he and the professor had promised to be friends for the rest of days. But that was an almost lifetime ago. Now Stitchhead was long forgotten. He sighed as he watched his new monster open its giant single eye for the first time. I have done it! I have created almost life! Again! You are my greatest creation ever! Cackled the professor. Stitchhead had to admit the creature was an impressive sight, far bigger and more imposing than anything the professor had created before. What's more, it had a nearly perfect balance of disgustingness and monstrousness. It flexed its two huge arms, pulled at the thick leather straps that held it in place, and wiggled a third small arm protruding from its chest, as if its master shrieked with victorious glee. Stitchhead looked down at his tiny, mismatched hands and felt sadder and more forgotten than ever. Groo! Stitchhead waited as the creature began thrashing about, its mighty arms straining against its bonds. What's happening? He whispered, staring in horror as the creature began to grow. Within seconds it had almost doubled in size. It sprouted thick fur, and its huge body grew even larger until, with a roar, it tore itself free and leapt from the operating table. Oh no, gasped Stitchhead, tightening the straps on a small bag slung over his shoulder. He looked up at the laboratory's great domed skylight. The moon was shining full and round in the midnight sky. No, the moon! Garoo! Boomed the creature. It swung its arms wildly, smashing the operating table to pieces and knocking the professor into a cabinet of spare brains. Master! Whispered Stitchhead as the cabinet collapsed on top of the professor. The creature lumbered towards the laboratory's thick wooden door. With a single almighty lunge, it crashed through locks, bolts, and 4 inches of solid wood. Then it roared again and disappeared into a labyrinth of corridors. What a creation! My best work! Came a cry from underneath the cabinet of brains. Stitchhead breathed a sigh of relief as the professor emerged. He dusted himself off and picked up a few bits of brain out of his hair. Creature? Creature! Return to your master! I command it! Called the professor. It didn't. I have to stop it from leaving the castle, muttered Stitchhead, his eyes unblinking with fear. He clambered silently, nimbly along the rafters, and then through a large wooden door and down a flight of winding stairs. Oh well, easy come, easy go, said the professor. Sifting through the brains on the floor, he held up one and gave it a good sniff. Ah, perfect for my next experiment. So, I shall read the next chapter of that on Monday. I've just realised I've been saying laboratory wrong. It's actually laboratory and not laboratory. But anyway, I shall see you on Monday for the next one. Bye.